What's up, boys and girls, and welcome back to Laying the Points with Farley Bets. This is the Week 5 analysis, and I give away all my leans in this show. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, we introduced our new podcast schedule this week. On Monday is the recap show of all the NFL action from the previous weekend. Wednesday is our new contest show. We're going to have guests every single week on the contest show, most weeks, hopefully. Very excited about that to talk Survivor, ATS. Actually lost one of my Circa Survivor entries on the Rams last night. I have a few things to say about that game. Annoying. And then Friday, today, October 3rd, for week 5. But every Friday, we're going to do a complete analysis and all of our leans. We don't give away any official plays in the show, although I am introducing a new segment where I will give away one free play on every show. But no official plays other than that, because those are for my paying clients. You can get all my plays at farleybets.substack.com. Just go to Substack or search for Farley Bets, or you can put in that URL directly. Follow me at Farley Bets on X. I'm a professional bettor, 2-time circuit contest winner, and I love the NFL, and I love talking about the NFL. And as usual, there's a lot to talk about today. We'll get to every single game. Just want to say that next week, the schedule will be a little different. Got a lot going on next weekend, a few parties to attend. So I won't be around Friday. We'll probably record the podcast early Thursday or Wednesday and then release it Thursday or Friday. So I'll make sure that I talk about any potential line movement and what you can expect or what I would take some of these games up to as far as my leans go. Okay, quickly, Thursday Night Football. Oh boy, it's just another indication of how unpredictable the NFL is, right? The Rams came out flat. The Rams haven't come out flat all season. They've been buttoned up against the Eagles, against the Colts, buttoned up. They looked like a Super Bowl contender. Came out flat. Played back defensively, right? Like shallow defense against an injured wide receiver core for the 49ers. That made no sense. Just uninspiring football. Couldn't convert offensively in the beginning. And then, of course, when they had to, they tied the 49ers because they missed an extra point. They missed a field goal, 2 fumbles within the 26-yard line of a touchdown, 1 within 5 yards of a touchdown on that final drive before overtime. Man, oh man, 2 fumbles in that area, missed field goal, missed extra point. You cannot predict, you cannot anticipate these kind of gaffes from a team that looked as buttoned up as they did. So it is what it is, right? Like I kind of wish that a subscriber or like a customer or somebody who follows me on X would say, Farley, God, you're an idiot. We just lost. I had the Rams to win, took it earlier in the week, and over 47.5, the over would have hit. The Rams obviously didn't win, but everything about my handicap was right, except for the mistakes by the Rams, right? And you can't account for like the human condition and human mistakes. So like, I'm glad that people are being nice to me today about that play because it's just absurd at this point. But that's the early NFL, and that's why like we try to put these sports, we try to put our bets into models, and that's a great thing to do to understand what you're doing and the way you're quantifying what you do. It does not mean that you can accurately predict a sociological phenomenon like the NFL, and that's what it is. Okay, let's move on to all of these games. We got what? 12 games to talk about now that Thursday Night Football is over, I believe, or maybe 13 to talk about now that that's over. So a little less than usual. We'll try to wrap this show up in fewer minutes than usual. I know that I could use that on a very busy Friday for me. And I just want you to pay attention to some of the pieces that I put out during the week on Substack. Every week I put out a week whatever explained line movement. And this past week, the line movement in week 5, I pointed out that the last 2 weeks, the direction that the market has moved has been wrong in 9 out of 14 cases. So just remember, the market is not God. It is not always perfect. Just because big bets are being made on certain sides and the line is moving in that direction, look at last night. It's not perfect. I believe the Rams opened up as a 3.5 or 4.5 point favorite. And then, of course, we learned about Brock Purdy and some of those other injuries later. So maybe it's a better idea to execute some of your bets later in the week at this point, because getting that early closing line value. I think later in the season, that's really important. But right now, the NFL kind of feels like the NBA. Sorry to say, like there's a lot of crazy shit going on during the week, and perceptions can change. And certainly line movement doesn't mean everything. Minnesota Vikings at the Cleveland Browns. Well, they're not at the Cleveland Browns because this is in London, Hotspur Stadium. This is going to be a very windy game, and it's going to be a game that favors both defenses. Minnesota's offensive line is very banged up. This is easily the lowest total of the week for good reason. On the other side, Dylan Gabriel is getting his first start for the Browns against Brian Flores in an aggressive Minnesota defense. Don't like that for him. Don't like Carson Wentz and an injured offensive line. So this should be as sloppy as Hotspur Stadium is. The wind doesn't help in the passing game. It doesn't help with field goals. It's going to be a rough situation for offense. I still think there's value in taking under 36, so I lean in that direction. And I think the offense that scores 17 points is going to win this game. Lean Minnesota, but again, in a game that's going to be so tight, I wouldn't feel good about a -3.5. Although Minnesota's been there for 2 weeks now, right? So they're at an advantage. I think they certainly have the better coach who's going to prepare them for a win, I believe. But yikes. It's gonna be a rough watch, I think. The Dallas Cowboys at the New York Jets. Weird spot for Dallas because, again, we saw them play really well in week 1 against the Eagles. Excuse me. We saw them look really good in week 1 against the Eagles. Weeks 2 and 3, not so much, especially on defense. Now, Dak Prescott has played well. He's played like an MVP. And their offense still doesn't have a lot of issues, even without CeeDee Lamb. George Pickens really stepping up last week. But this is a weird one. This is one of those spots where you would think, well, Dallas is gonna play down a little bit. And even though the Jets are 0-4, and I think their coach, Aaron Glenn, is just, I don't know if he knows what he's doing. He's just yelling a lot. I don't think that works in the NFL. But this is also just one of the worst rosters. Like if you look at this roster up and down, the Jets roster, there aren't a lot of rosters that are as untalented or have as many unknown players. And they got like a few guys, right? The Garrett Wilsons, Sauce Gardner. But around them, it's not good, and their defense has not been good. So Dak Prescott has a plus matchup against this defense, but the Cowboys have to play mistake-free football and focused football in a weird spot, which is something that we really can't count on them for. Lean Dallas, but as you can tell, it's not like I'm bullish on it. Don't worry, a free play is coming, I promise. Broncos at the Eagles. This went down from 5.5 to 3.5 in favor of the Eagles. Total's 43.5. Well, the love that's come in on Denver is interesting because they just beat up on the Bengals. And right now, the Bengals, when they're on the road, are getting beaten up by everybody. So, I'm not that impressed by that. I expected the Broncos to win. Now, J.K. Dobbins has been a nice bright spot for the Broncos, but otherwise, their defense is still great. Like the talent is still there. They're healthy. Patrick Surtain is the man. He completely limited Jamar Chase last weekend, but the Broncos have not played infallible football. And Bo Nix, I hate this matchup for him. I think Philly's defense can destroy him, force him into mistakes throughout this contest. I just don't see it. Now, Philly has been outgained every week. All 4 weeks. They're 4-0, folks. And all 4 weeks they've been outgained. In total, it's 1,333 yards to 1,006 yards. So what's that? 327 yards they've been outgained so far in 4 games. 81 to 72 outgained in first downs. Eventually, that's going to catch up. But I don't know if the Broncos, who are kind of like a junior high version of the Chiefs, are going to go into Philly and beat the Eagles. If anything, I lean Eagles at the -3.5 because they just find ways to figure it out. And the fact that the Eagles have covered the last 2 weeks against the Rams and that blocked field goal, and the Bucs last week when the Bucs had opportunities to tie it up at the end and almost doubled the Eagles in total yards. It was 370 to 200. What are you kidding me? The fact that the Eagles still covered those games it is an absolute mindfuck at this point. Beep. Excuse me. The Texans at the Ravens. A little bit of a revenge spot here for the Texans if they want to think about it that way, because the Texans 2 years ago lost in the wild card round of the playoffs at Baltimore. They were very humbled in that game. CJ Stroud kind of, drank that humble juice in his, I believe that was his rookie season. That said, like, man, the Ravens, obviously Lamar Jackson's probably out. He's doubtful. I'm sure he's really mad about it. Doesn't matter. I don't think they should play him. But look at this injury list. Marlon Humphrey, doubtful. Kyle Hamilton wasn't practicing. Roquan Smith, doubtful. 5 other starters, questionable. Ronnie Stanley, their best offensive lineman, and Patrick Ricard, their fullback, questionable, banged up. You can only look at the Texans here. Maybe it's like a 49ers type situation where the Ravens play up with their season feeling like it's on the line. That's probably a good, like, I wouldn't mind teasing up the Ravens and also taking the Texans here perhaps, but you can only really look at the Texans from an ATS side. Also, considering an under, even though Baltimore's defense has been bad, you would think against this Houston offense, which has shown nothing. The game was 6-0 against the Titans last week until the fourth quarter, which that was sort of nonsense. Houston has nothing to offer offensively. Giants at the Saints. Saints -2, totals 42. I love the intangible element of what Jackson Dart and Cam Skattebo are bringing to the Giants team, right? Cam Skattebo he's a fucking like little Tasmanian devil. He's just a great locker room guy. You can tell people rally around him. Jackson Dart, same thing. Like, he led the speech after they won it in the locker room, and I liked what he said. Like, he was self-aware. Thanked the defense for holding them in the game. A lot of positive in the intangible department from this administration now with Jackson Dart and Cam Skattebo, and a defense that's really improving. Brian Burns is top 5 in sacks already. But Dart probably has some limitations that we don't know about because they're not releasing the whole playbook yet for him. He didn't really throw it downfield. Now there's no Malik Neighbors. And the Saints have hung around. The Saints were neck and neck in that game last week against the Bills. I mean, they could have won that game at Orchard Park. So this is a sneaky spot, in my opinion, for the Saints. Lean Saints, gross, lean under 42. Vegas at the Colts. New segment time. This is the weirdest line of the week. Why is it the weirdest line of the week? Well, the Colts were -6.5 most of the week. And I didn't understand that. Now it's gone up to 7. That makes more sense to me, but I don't understand why it's not 7.5, 8, 8.5. At this point, the market has shown so much love to the Colts. Even last week, they went down to 3.5-point underdogs, which is a short line at LA against the Rams team that looks like a Super Bowl contender. So against the Raiders, who haven't shown anything, who last week played their hearts out, probably their best game all season, and they still lost. The Colts at home, they qualify as like a home dominant team. They're putting up 30 or more almost every game. I don't think the Raiders can hang around this one, but why isn't the market and why aren't the bettors feeling stronger about this matchup? It's just a little weird. It's just a little weird. Lean Colts, lean over. Probably a lot of points in this one. If any part of the Raiders is going to show up, I think it's more on offense. And maybe the Colts defense plays down against an unfamiliar team, but this is a weird one. I would be cautious about the Colts. Dolphins at the Panthers. It's remarkable, the perception on the Dolphins at this point. Like, if this was the Dolphins of previous administrations, previous years, 2 years ago especially, they would be like -6 on the road against the Panthers. Even the total, 44.5. Like, not a lot of faith in the Miami offense. The Miami offense is doing 2 things well. Third down conversions. I think they're second in the NFL. And 2 is completion percentage, which is always pretty good, is high. Otherwise, they're not explosive. They're not an offense that teams fear anymore. They're 29th in yards per carry. Wait, is that right? Is that? Defensively, they're allowing 5.1 yards per carry. Now, Chuba Hubbard, I think, is going to be out for the Panthers, so maybe that doesn't help the Panthers as much. But, Mike McDaniel is still on the chopping block, and there's not much to suggest that Carolina is any better than a bottom 5 team although they did play their best at home 2 weeks ago against Atlanta. So a lot of competing thoughts with me here. I'd lean Carolina because I think that the market knows something I don't, but I wouldn't play that game. The Bucks at the Seahawks. Perception is high on the Seahawks after beating the Cardinals on Thursday Night Football, and I think they did look really good in that game. Then again, it is the Cardinals who make a lot of teams look good, especially above average teams. The market is lower on the Bucks after week 4, even though they dominated the Eagles in stats. Too many mistakes. Now, sure, Tampa Bay has been in a lot of close games, but it's legitimate, right? Baker has late game magic. They figure it out. Meanwhile, the Seahawks let the Cardinals back in the game. They eked out a win last week. Now, the Seahawks, I think, are going to be a really dangerous, like a good team at home. But again, I don't think the Seahawks are a top-tier team, whereas I think Tampa Bay's itching towards that. Their offensive line is healthy. Their defense is playing better. I can only lean Tampa Bay. It was really close to an official play for me, plus 3.5. Not just yet. Maybe it's a circuit play for me, but I can only lean Tampa. And I don't know what to think about that total. It's right between some key numbers. I'm just going to stay away from that. Tennessee at Arizona. Cardinals are -8. Total's 42. Can you trust the Cardinals? Well, I think you can against bad teams, right? This is what the Cardinals do. They beat up on bad teams. They might not cover against bad teams, but they win. Probably a good survivor play. But we also have to start asking, is Cam Ward really that good? The Titans are 32nd in yards per pass, just 4.2 yards per pass. Cam Ward has a 51.2% completion percentage. That's 32nd. And they're still throwing the ball a ton. They're top 5 in pass play percentage, 61%, 62%. There's no run game to boot, 87 yards per game. That's 29th. Got to lean Arizona here, who's at home for 2 straight weeks. They have extra days to prepare for this game. And this is what they do. They beat up on bad teams, but we saw them let the Panthers back in at home a few weeks ago too. So it's not like the Cardinals are ever a lock. Okay. No such thing in the NFL, especially with the Cardinals. Very interesting game here. And I think the toughest game of the week for me to handicap, which is why I really haven't given this out in any way. The Commanders at the Chargers. Line is now -3 in favor of the Chargers. That moved down from 3.5 because we know Jaden Daniels is playing. Total's 47. The Chargers are the real deal, but their roster isn't where it used to be. And now Joe Alt is doubtful, probably not playing. Their best offensive lineman. Washington is very average without Jaden Daniels, but now he's back. Washington's defense, stout against the run, 3.6 yards per carry, but not so much against the pass, 8.6 yards per pass. That's 30th allowed. So this is just like a Justin Herbert versus Jaden Daniels game. That's kind of weird for me. Like I'm pretty sure it's going to be close, but a lot of things seem even here for me. So I think this line is right. You give the Chargers a slight advantage because they played better overall. They're at home. Doesn't mean much that they're at home actually for the Chargers, but the line is right. Lions at the Bengals. New segment. This is the game where I think something really weird can happen. Really weird. Something really weird can happen here. The entire world is going to be on the Lions, right? The entire world is going to pick them in Survivor. You know, we saw that on Thursday Night Football. Now, the Bengals aren't the 49ers, but this has a weird feel to it for me. Now, let's compare. Okay. I mean, while the Bengals are not a good team, they're more of an organization that we trust, right? In the sense that they were in the Super Bowl a few years ago with Joe Burrow. They're still a Super Bowl contender. Zach Taylor, there has to be something really good about his leadership for the players and the administration to continually respond to him in the sense that they keep him around. They end up winning a few surprise games even without Joe Burrow. Zach Taylor has also communicated confidence in his quarterback, Jake Browning. So I just think, Jamar Chase, frustrated with last week, not getting the ball, getting shut down by Patrick Surtain. Him and T. Higgins have plus matchups this week. Of course, I hate the matchup for Browning against a good Lions defense, and Aiden Hutchinson has been playing really well. But this is a really desperate spot for the Bengals. So my free play of the week is Bengals team total over 19.5 points. I think the Bengals at least put up some points in this game at home, sense of pride. Don't trust their defense at all. But offensively, the Lions can have some flaws, and the Lions could easily be a sleepy letdown spot for the Lions. Patriots at the Bills. Well, the Bills are playing with their food at this point, right? They're 4-0. So they barely have to make any crazy good plays. Like they just like run the ball and play fly around the ball defense, and they win. And of course, they have Josh Allen, which is the main difference. As I cross my arms here and I think about this game, I guess I just really don't get why the market, and especially at first, people love the Patriots in this game. It was moving down, and there's a lot of positive sentimentality around the Patriots this week. But in the box score, the Patriots have played well, sure, like total yards and stuff. But even last week, like Drake May didn't do much to set up that win. There was a ton of kick returns, like all the way into the other side of the field. A lot of great punt returns into like the red zone. The run game was rolling. So they gained a huge lead without Drake May doing all that much. And we're seeing a lot of stats, positive stats about Drake May this week. Okay, cool. But he didn't really have to do that much. This is obviously a different animal, right? You're at Orchard Park. You're a new team that has looked like a new team that's still developing, making a lot of mistakes in previous weeks this season. Last week was really the only buttoned up, balanced performance by the Patriots. And it's after their defensive coordinator found out that he had cancer. There's like a motivational aspect to that. Strong lean to Buffalo here. I don't think the love for the Patriots is well-founded, and we're seeing the line move back in the Bills' direction. It's up to -8.5 at most books, -9 at Bet Online with some plus money odds there. So lean Bills, lean to the over at 48 as well. Probably be a lot of points in this one. The Patriots offense has looked better. Do I think it's good? I do not. Lastly, Kansas City at the Jaguars, Monday Night Football. This is an interesting one and a tough one to feel confident about on either side. Of course, we know that the Chiefs don't really cover as a favorite. They're like just below 50% the last two seasons. We only saw one good week from the Kansas City offense as well, but it was impressive. I mean, and by the way, Patrick Mahomes, who is not, of course, he's not being talked about because people love to hate Patty, but he's playing magnificent football. 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, third best QBR in the NFL, 4 touchdowns last week. And Xavier Worthy did make a big difference. You can tell the way that they could stretch the ball, stretch the defense was significant. Now, this Jacksonville defense has also played well. Second in interceptions, they're top 5 against the run. You know, Anthony Campanelli has his guys flying around the ball and playing really well. But I also hate Trevor Lawrence on the other side against the Kansas City defense. Kansas City has been very good on third downs, fourth downs in the red zone and points per play. They don't allow a lot of explosive plays. Trevor Lawrence is going to have a mistake or two, especially against the defense like this. Looks like a low-scoring game to me. Like it's itching up to 47. It's at 46.5. If that goes to 47, which is a key number, I would hit the under on this game. I kind of like the under now. And I also lean Chiefs. Again, they're not a great ATS team in these situations, but I don't think the Jaguars, even though they're better, like Liam Cohen, you watch Liam Cohen in the locker room and Prescott and just the way he handles himself. He's a good coach. I think this guy is going to be a coach in the NFL for a long time. But this is a big step up in class for a Chiefs team now that is believing in themselves more than ever. As I get a phone call in the middle of my podcast. Okay, that's a good stopping point, don't you think? Ladies and gents, I enjoyed it. It's a little shorter not as always, but it's a little shorter because we have fewer games to talk about, which is what a luxury, right? When you have 16 games for 4 straight weeks, it's like, holy shit, how do I handicap all these games? It's an intellectual pursuit. The NFL is. Check me out next week, guys. I'll have the recap show again on Monday. I'm going to have a great guest on Wednesday, Kate Constable from BetMGM. Been handicapping and hosting sports shows for many years now. She's coming on the show on Wednesday, and then we'll have an earlier show that's usually on Friday for the full analysis for week 6. Going to be a big weekend. Can't wait. The ball can't keep on bouncing away from us this much. Looking forward to some positive regression. Check me out at Substack, FarleyBets.substack.com, and we'll see you on the other side. Hey, let's win some damn money, shall we? Yeah, we shall.